Have you ever stopped to think about what could lead an entire city to be destroyed by fire and sulfur? And what would cause Lot's daughters to make the drastic decision to sleep with their own father in an attempt to ensure the continuity of the lineage? Today, we will explore one of the most impactful stories in the Bible, the condemnation of Sodom and Gomorrah. But what can we learn from this story? Is there still something for us to reflect on in our lives today? Let's talk about it. Stay with me, like the video if you are enjoying the content, and let's dive into this deep and mysterious account. Imagine a time when the flames of the sky are God's response to sin and injustice. Around Sodom and Gomorrah, there was an arid and dry landscape, and amidst this, two cities flourished with prosperity. The cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were seen as symbols of wealth and abundance. The cities were located in the fertile plain of Jordan, a region known for its prosperity. It was like an oasis in the desert, where luxury and wealth stood out. And with this wealth, there was a certain pride. But the Bible reveals that this luxury was hiding something much darker. You may ask, but what was wrong with living in these cities? Things seemed fine, but the Bible makes it clear. The prosperity of Sodom and Gomorrah was not only in the abundance of the land, but also in the way the people related to God and to each other. The inhabitants of these cities were known for their arrogance, lack of compassion, and for not helping the needy. Opulence had led to indifference, and what did the inhabitants do? Pride and gluttony took over. With so many resources, they gave themselves to pleasures and indifference to others. Imagine a place where people can have everything they want, but still become selfish and forget to look out for others. God could not ignore this. When moral decay reaches an extreme point, God decides to intervene. And who would be chosen to be the instrument of salvation? Lot. But how did he end up there? Lot, Abraham's nephew, made a choice that seemed logical at the time. He chose to live in the fertile plains near Sodom and Gomorrah. He didn't know, or maybe he didn't imagine, how much this decision would lead him down a difficult path. Lot, despite his good faith, got close to a city where injustice, selfishness, and sin reigned. And the question I want you to think about is, do our choices also place us near sin and disobedience to God? The angels of God arrived in Sodom and Gomorrah, sent to investigate the situation. Lot, with his hospitality, welcomes them into his home. But what happens next is alarming. Those who inhabited the city try to attack the angels, with a violence and depravity that reflect how corrupted the city had become. In a moment of desperation, Lot tries to protect the angels by offering his own daughters. It may seem like a crazy act, but this shows us how far Lot's morality was challenged. What would you do in such a situation? This makes us reflect on how corrupted we can become when sin takes over us. After the violence, the angels intervene and blind the aggressors, protecting Lot and his family. And then the message is clear: escape, do not look back. But Lot hesitates. Imagine yourself in his place. You've been warned that everything you know will be destroyed. Would you leave immediately? Why did Lot hesitate? He had lived so long in that city. Maybe he hoped that everything could improve. And could you immediately leave everything you know if God asks you to? This is a hard question, but crucial. Lot and his daughters leave to save their lives. But his wife disobeys and looks back, disobeying God's command. What happens next? She turns into a pillar of salt. A simple look back, and the destruction is fulfilled. Sometimes, a small mistake can have eternal consequences. Are we looking back in our lives? Are we detached from sin? Or are we still holding on to it, trying to return to what should have already been left behind? What can we learn from the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? It's not just about ancient cities and ancient punishments. It's a direct warning to each one of us. are we often making the same choices, ignoring the justice and holiness of God? God does not tolerate injustice, and this story reminds us that our choices have consequences. Lot had the chance to escape, but his hesitation and his wife's disobedience show what can happen when we do not follow God's will. And what does this mean for us today? Are we ready to make the right choice? In summary, the story of Lot and his family is, without a doubt, a warning. The destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was an act of divine justice, but also an act of mercy for the righteous who escaped. And us? Are we living a life that honors God? Or are we following the same path of corruption that led to the downfall of these cities? I hope this video has touched your heart and led you to reflect on your choices and the importance of following the principles of justice and holiness in our lives.